Hi again, it's another lovely day. Today we're going to be discussing timelines, something that we've been touching upon in our free will and karma videos. We're going to discuss timelines and how they're formed, what they are, do we have one, do we have many, what can impact those timelines. We'll touch on some of the quantum mechanics that have performed experiments that prove the non-linear causality of timelines and occurrences in the quantum universe, and this same applies to timelines as well. So we'll touch upon that. If you're not scientifically minded, you can just skip over that. I won't be delving on it too deeply, spending too much time on it. But I will quote something from my book as well to illustrate. So the timelines, what are timelines? Well, these are the set of outcomes and experiences that we're experiencing in the now, that we have in the past, and that are available to us in the future. Timelines are created through free will and developed through karma. So as we've touched on before, we have free will to perform any action, every word, every thought, every intention, which has an outcome, an energetic outcome, which creates karma, be that positive or negative. Those karmic outcomes will forward imprint an energetic timeline into the quantum or the akasha of possibility, and those are called timelines. Timelines are simply avenues or paths of possibility within the infinite experience of all that is, that we can experience. We can walk upon any of those paths. Now, which one is determined? Which one is the one that we'll walk on? What determines that? Well, it's actually the force of our energy, our thoughts, our patterns, our tendencies, paradigms, which will dictate the ultimate timeline that we will be following. We can jump between timeline to timeline constantly. It only takes a significant or a moderate change in tendency and behavior to completely switch us onto a different timeline and outcomes. It's all energy. Wherever we force or apply mental or physical force upon, which is energy, will be the timeline that we will experience. And again, it depends on the foundation of those actions, words, thoughts, and intents. It's either love, high vibration, or if it's ego, narcissism, self-awarded intellectualism, deceit, power, greed, all those other things. It can be happiness, it can be unity, it can be connectedness, and we'll have the outcomes according to that. So those are the timelines we'll experience. Remember, our spirit is here for expansion, freedom, and adventure. We are infinite, therefore there are infinite possibilities for us to experience as timelines as in physical form. Now, timelines are created by ourselves, for the most part, fundamentally ourselves, but they can be impacted by others. It can be impacted by the power we give away to others. So the more power we relinquish and offer to others, be that institutions, be that governments, be that nations, be that friends, be that influencers, whatever you wish to call it, they can govern indirectly and subconsciously, and sometimes by force, the timelines that we can experience. So it's important that we, through free will, don't give our power away to others who have the power, who are then given sufficient power to dictate our timelines and what we can or cannot experience. So it's important. It's very, very interconnected, as I've said many, many times, and I will do continually, that everything's connected. Sovereignty and free will needs to be maintained so that you can create your own timelines. So they can be your own, mostly forcibly created by yourself through force of mind and action. and intent and purpose. But they can be directed or influenced by external factors if we allow them to. But it also can be influenced by the free will of another. And this is some more brutal examples which are very uncommon, thankfully. But remember, free will is everyone's divine right, and it can be of joy or peace, harmony, love, anger, hate, those dualities. Another could come into your path and through a complete free will action change the path of your direction through completely unintended consequences. Not everything that we experience is fate. Not everything that we experience is predetermined. It can be imposed upon us by the actions of another through their free will. A free will action that wasn't intended in their life path, in their purpose, in their predetermined course that they came to have in this life. So there are multiple things that can affect timelines for ourselves, but fundamentally, it is our own. We can have multiple timelines and things can flicker from timeline to timeline constantly, depending on what we do day to day, what we think, the actions, our words, our thoughts and intents, and the foundation of them. So we can change it at all times. It's our choice where we go. Moving towards grace and going on to an infinite journey again will move your timeline considerably in another direction. And of course, the opposite is true. These are also timelines are in quantum mechanics are proven to be fragile. The non-linear causality is been proven in quantum mechanics for those who need science to justify and understand the esoteric, the spiritual, and the metaphysical. We can use the double slit experiment, which is an experiment long dated that uses quantum mechanics to explain how subatomic particles pass through hair-thin slits. So the experiment itself was passing monochromatic light through a single slit on a board, and it had a panel at the back where the particles, the monochromatic particles, were passing through, and they were observed on the panel at the back. And well, you would think logically it would pass through one slit and therefore create a single dark slit on the other side where the particles hitting the panel. This is what was observed. But when they added a second slit, which is another hair width in diameter, and obviously those two slits were even lesser than a hair width apart, the monochromatic light was passed through again. But what they found this time, that the light particles, the photons, the subatomic particles there, were scattered. They weren't actually in two patterns of single lines, which you expect if you fire something through one slit and then through another slit, one particle at a time. You'd expect two dark slits on the observation panel. That inferred that quantum mechanics is not linear. There's not a linear causality in anything. Also infers that these particles were being interfered with by something else, and it wasn't each other because they were being fired separately. There's also other quantum mechanics quote I wish to read out to you from my book, which I'll shamelessly plug. And here we go. This one. I'll put it on this side. So this was on page 179 of my book, and I'll read it to you. This is a comment made by a scientist in Hong Kong about a lab experiment in Vienna. So let me just read that to you. Walter's lab at the University of Vienna. The Walter's lab group has shown that it's impossible to say in which order these photons pass through a pair of gates as they zip around the lab. It's not that this information gets lost or jumbled. It simply doesn't exist. In Walter's experiments, there is no well-defined order of events. Thus, finding in 2015 made the quantum world seem even stranger than scientists had thought. Walter's experiments mash up causality. This is the causality of our timelines are not a result of linear events. They're a result of many, many events, many, many occurrences, many actions, words and thoughts that we have dictate timelines, and we can swap and change between them depending on personal, external, environmental, and non-personal free will factors. I'll continue. The idea that one thing leads to another, this is the mashup of causality. It is as if the physicists have scrambled the concept of time itself so that it seems to run in two directions at once. A quantum computer free from the constraints of a predefined causal structure might solve some problems faster than conventional quantum computers, says quantum theorist Giulio Ciambrella of the University of Hong Kong. What that article is saying effectively is timelines, causality in the universe, and the experiments within quantum mechanics are proving that there are many things that can dictate the outcomes of action, dictate the outcomes of every action, word, thought, and intent that we have. Quantum mechanics will move towards the understanding that esoteric, metaphysical, and spiritual science and philosophy has been saying for countless centuries, thousands of years. And it'll move closer to that. What it won't do is achieve consciousness. So that's an argument we can all have separately, or a discussion, or a debate. We'll touch on that in other videos as we look at quantum physics and its relation to the universe. So timelines, they are multi and varied. We cause them multiple factors, multiple non-linear causality, a mashup of causality affects our timelines. So be mindful of the timelines that we create. It's free will, karma, timelines intermingled. Remember the universal laws of thought, intention, and energy. All encompasses through free will, which the outcomes are actions, words, thoughts, and intents. Those create karmic forces, outcomes. Those forces create timelines. And those timelines are what we experience through our self-enforced action, the power we give away to others, nations, institutions, ideologies, doctrines, and belief systems, which we need to be open-minded about releasing. Otherwise, there's only closed-mindedness, or the free will of others. Follow your own path. It's critical to create your own time, and when you have self-power, absorb the power within and retain it, and not let it out to others, not give it away, and create your own expansion, freedom, and adventure on a daily basis. It is open to you, all possibilities open to you. The external world does not need to affect your timelines at all. It just depends how much power you've given away and how much you've retained to dictate those timelines to yourself and manifest through the universal divine energy of all possibility, of infinite all oneness, all that we are, all that is, which is all that you are. These timelines can be anything you wish them to be. Make them wonderful, make them full of joy and love. Control them through force of your own actions and your own will, your own intent, your own thought, and transform energy into what you wish to manifest. So thank you again for listening to this video. Please like and subscribe and share as wide as possible. And I thank you for your comments and any suggestions you have. And I wish you all a good day. And thanks for listening. Take care. Thank you. Bye.